Hello, everybody. Hopefully, people can hear me as I adjust this mic. So, in today's session, I'd like to talk about translation, when it's conscious and when it's subconscious. Alright, so translation. In my experience, this was a useful thing when I just wanted to get the answer right away. I was going through, many things. I have like tons of dictionaries. I have like literally tons of it. Not a whole entire library, but just a fair amount. I would say a minimum of 20 dictionaries, and it was bilingual, so I don't use them anymore. So translating can be kind of tricky because I noticed that even when it comes to language acquisition as a method, it's it helps when it comes to just communicating exactly what you want. Like I tell my students that you can just, instead of translating, you could just put in the words you want to type in just to kind of get me to understand what you're trying to say. So that's what I use translation. I'm the one who is trying to understand, or the one the one who's receiving is the one who translates, because they're trying to get the message, right? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to tell me? So I categorize this into three things that I noticed that can be considered sort of in between conscious and subconscious. Now, in a previous video, I talked a little bit about what conscious is. For those who don't know, conscious process, at least for me, how I see it, is that the conscious process is examples like, yes, translating, doing grammar, studying, yes, the idea of learning, correcting yourself or correcting others, using subtitles. So basically anything that you think about, or you're aware that you are actually learning, that you're actually doing something, you're aware of it. Now, as great as that works for, let's say, saying the right things when you want to say, for example, like how to express the words correctly, instead of saying, like, for example, like in English, we do this the same thing. I mean, in your mother tongue, you want to say the right thing. You want to be, I guess, proper. You want to be socially correct. You want to, what was that word? Was that socially correct? Whatever. The point is, you want to be correct. So, but that in turn actually affects how we basically, yes, acquire languages. So, but that kind of behavior to always be trying to be correct, or I guess, politically correct, is kind of, there's a difference between being conscious about and being aware of what you say, and being aware that what you're saying can slow you down. So again, so that means that when you are just trying to be proper and being respectful to others, that's slightly different from when you want to say something just to communicate. Because we live in a world where I guess many of us, especially in like Western culture, or maybe North American, maybe, I don't know, that kind of culture, we're so conscious about, or over conscious about, how we're saying things. And that's okay, because it's like you're being respectful, you're being open, you're adapting to what changes are happening. But at the same time, when it comes to just communicating how you want it, it goes both ways, right? So the one who's receiving the message, saying, maybe might perceive what you're saying as like, oh, this is wrong, how are you saying it? We're so concerned about harming each other rather than saying the loving thing, because you can do both, right? You can say it lovingly, how you say it, why you're saying it, and at the same time use the right words. But again, when it comes to communication, Communication is deeper than just thinking about what you want to say. So going back to the whole thing, I kind of digressed here. So translating for the sake of just like directly translating so that it's more towards the benefit, I suppose, of the listener, right? So that's one thing. So that's translating directly for the sake of learning, or rather conscious. That's the part that becomes a habit. But that also kind of works for number 2, which is communication. So you're not actually learning in this case. What I mentioned earlier, you're not learning in this case. You're just communicating. I kind of made that into 2 separate parts. One is if the people involved think about what's translated. In other words, you're really just like, you saw the translation, okay, and then you're going back to it. Like, what was that again? What was that? That becomes conscious. However, if there's an ongoing flow and translated concepts are ignored, and the attention is towards pleasure in the experience, then it becomes, I would say, slightly more subconscious. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So what that means, let me repeat that. So if there's an ongoing flow and translated concepts are ignored and the intention instead is towards having fun, going with the experience, connecting, right? Then that's a little bit more subconscious. But this is why number 3, I recommend no translation. It's more for the benefit, like I said earlier, for the 3rd time or 4th time, for the umpteenth time. Translation works more on the benefit of the person receiving it, the listener, so to speak, the listener, right? Because they're just trying to get the message. So, in my experiences, I wanted to show here, how do I do this one? So when you're, for example, let's go back here. Let's say when we are online, and let's say we go to this website I go to quite often. This is a translation website. So for example, if I didn't know, for example, like, it works a little better with scripts you're not used to. So for example, if I wanted to look up a term and I wanted to look for, let's say, I go on YouTube and I look up a term, or I'm looking for, let's say, children's shows. What I used to do is, or cartoons, I would just go to this website, Glossby, and I would just look up cartoon. Just type that in. But it's not for learning, it's just, I wanted to get that word. So I do this, I look up the first word, I copy and I paste onto YouTube, for example, if you're using YouTube or whatever website you're using. It's a little slow here, so bear with me. So I paste it, and then I go. If it's in Thai already, for example, then most likely maybe what you might come across is a cartoon that's dubbed in Thai or something like that. So that's when I'm using translation, because it's like, it's quick. It's just like, I just need to look for that. I'm not here for the word. I'm not here for the word. I'm looking for the bigger goal is the actual goal is to get that cartoon, right? If I wanted to specify what kind of cartoon, I would type in Thai. So that way I would say Thai cartoon. So I don't know anything about the language that much, right? It's not about, I'm not going to digress here, but the point is I type that in as well. So there you go. So you have like different sources here. But again, the goal is to go where I'm going, right? So that's when I use translation sometimes for different languages. If the language is, of course, let's say something with a similar script to your own, let's say, or in this case, let's say like for Basque, let's say for example, if I type in cartoon, it's the same thing, but you start to kind of interpret it yourself because you have the similar script, or you have the same script as English. It's the same script as English. It's a Latin script, right? So I copy and paste that, and then so yeah. But either way, I'm still going to ignore how to read that. I'm not looking for how to read that word. I'm not going for the word. So that's one example of how I use translation in that case. For the most part, though, I really avoid translation. So, well, that's it. I wanted to make that video kind of short. I hope that helps a little bit. You really want to make sure translation is just specifically for that, a specific purpose, just like to get information quick. But if it's for really like being a part of you, remember, because it's acquisition. Acquisition means it becomes a part of you. You pick it up like a skill, like a, So I'll see you guys later. I hope that helps. Thank you so much. I will see you later. Bye.